They called the cops to ban my family from visiting our own home. Burgers on the grill, criminal offense, lavender in the yard, national emergency. But this time, the clipboard queen messed with the wrong family, because my dad's not just a visitor. He's the judge they're about to meet in court. Here's the twist. This family doesn't back down, and we weren't alone. Ever dealt with an HOA that thinks it outranks common sense, family, and reality itself? Drop your story in the comments, because this gets wild fast. Our welcome sign had barely settled into the dirt before it got yanked up like it owed the HOA money. My wife Nina had spent her weekend crafting it, burned edges, hand-painted lavender, even a little wooden heart. It was the kind of sign that makes you feel like your neighbors might actually wave instead of file a complaint. But to Charlene Bishop, president of the Cypress Ridge OA and part-time Storm Cloud, it was a direct violation of Section 4C of her imaginary legal empire. She rolled up the driveway in a blazer so tight it creaked, heels clicking like she was chasing overdue rent. And that signature red clipboard that had sent more flower pots into hiding than a hailstorm. She didn't say hi, she didn't blink. She measured our fence like it was a biohazard and muttered, "This fence is in violation. Height exceeds permitted range." I asked if she needed help. She responded like a Marvel villain, "I am the law here." My daughter peeked from behind the screen door and asked me, "Is she doing magic?" Nina came out, watering can in hand, trying to be human. Charlene looked at her like she was holding a Molotov cocktail. "I'm helping you avoid further penalties." Then, with full HOA authority, she pulled our welcome sign out of the ground like she was exercising joy itself and scribbled something so aggressively I thought the pen would catch fire. And just when I thought we were done with her one-woman Broadway audition, she slapped a neon yellow notice on our door like she was casting a curse. Serious violations. 72 hours to comply or face legal consequences, in bold font, triple underlined, the kind of typeface you reserve for ransom letters and exorcisms. As she turned to leave, she dropped one more gem. "Welcome to Cypress Ridge. Comply or move." She said it like she'd trademarked the neighborhood and was legally allergic to happiness. But here's the thing, this wasn't just about a fence or flowers. This was about control. Charlene wasn't enforcing rules. She was writing her own HOA Bible and stapling it to our lives. We weren't her first victims, but we sure as hell were going to be her last. So stick around, because if you've ever been fined for breathing too loud in your own backyard, what happens next might just feel like justice. You know you've officially made it as a suburban menace when a man laughing at a barbecue becomes a 9/11 event. My dad, retired high school principal, Vietnam vet, and grill master, in chief, showed up on a Saturday with ribs, a cooler of Dr. Pepper, and that look in his eye that says, I brought tongs and I'm not afraid to use them. But the second he cracked a joke about burning the meat like it owes me money, Charlene popped up from the bushes like a prairie dog with a badge. She pulled out her walkie-talkie, not a phone, a walkie-talkie, and whispered, "What have an unauthorized gathering at 1128 Juniper Lane? Lady, it's pork, not a prison riot." An hour later, a deputy cruiser rolls up like we'd invited Tupac and Chaos to the block. My dad raised an eyebrow and asked, "Did I overcook the ribs, or are we being raided?" Officer Friendly gets out, me looking slightly confused, and says, "We got a report of excessive noise and an unregistered visitor vehicle." I pointed to my dad's truck. It's red, beat up, and has a bumper sticker that says, "Retired, not expired." Apparently that's threatening. Charlie materialized behind the officer like a bad sequel and hissed, "That truck has no visitor tag." It's a violation of Article 7F die. I stared at her clipboard and wondered if she sleeps with it or just lets it whisper HOA codes into her ear at night. To make things worse, she started handing out brochures. Actual trifold brochures, titled, "Maintaining Community Aesthetics, A Guide to Proper Property Behavior." Dad took one, skimmed it, and said, "So I need a permit to breathe out here." Charlene didn't blink. "Your yard does not reflect community values." I laughed. "Mistake, me." She wrote me up for mocking a board member during official review. Apparently, sass is now a finable offense. Nina whispered, "What's next?" A citation for having unapproved laughter. I told her not to joke. She might inspire a new section in the bylaws. The next morning, I stepped outside to grab the paper and found another neon violation stuck to the mailbox. Improper use of outdoor equipment. Translation: the grill was visible from the street. I had covered it with a patio tarp the night before, but apparently the shape alone offended Charlene's OA feng shui. That's when it hit me. This wasn't about regulations. It was about control. Charlene wasn't managing a neighborhood, she was staging a one-woman war against joy. I wasn't just a homeowner anymore. I was a lead defendant in a meat-fueled morality play called The Charred Rebel of Cypress Ridge. But But here's what she didn't know: my dad may look like a guy who just wants peace and ribs, me. But he also raised 3 kids, taught for 35 years, and once talked down an angry parent with nothing but a chalkboard eraser. The man has patience, but once it runs out, God help the clipboard. That night, me over leftover ribs, he looked at me and said, "Son, some people need to be taught the difference between authority and abuse." He didn't say it loud. He didn't need to. The next move, me. Let's just say it was time to introduce Charlene to the concept of legal backfire. When people use rules like weapons, they're not keeping peace. They're waging war. True order comes from mutual respect. Me, not printed brochures. If she thought that barbecue was loud, wait till she hears what my father does for a living. We got an anonymous note warning us to be careful, be careful. What is this? The lavender files. From the envelope to the shaky handwriting, it felt less friendly neighbor and more deep throat with allergies. It read, advice from someone who knows. She watches families 24/7. Me. Hide your business. At this point, I wasn't sure if we were dealing with the HOA or the OA NSA. The next morning, I opened the mailbox and found what looked like an official OA memo. Only it wasn't folded, stamped, or real. Just typed out like a bad ransom letter. This household requires special surveillance. Me, advisory notice. Exhibit C. I half expected Exhibit C to be a close-up photo of our tomato plant with a red circle around it. I looked up from the letter and that's when I saw it. A small black camera, me, bolted to the utility pole across the street, aimed directly at our front porch like it was expecting us to launch a rocket. I waved. It didn't blink. Probably because Charlene hadn't programmed it with facial recognition yet. Later that afternoon, I caught a flash in our window, camera again. Then another from Charlene's upstairs blinds, me. And that's when it hit me: she wasn't managing a community. She was running a low-budget surveillance state with a clipboard, a Canaan, and a God complex. Me. It was like living across the street from a discount Bond villain who replaced sharks with overpriced mulch. Nina whispered, "Do you think she bugged the mailbox?" I answered, "Only if the bugs are HOA trained." As if on cue, Deputy Marsh rolled up in his cruiser looking like a man sent to negotiate with terrorists. Only his target was our herb garden, me. We received concerns about unauthorized flora, he said, scanning our lavender like it was Schedule I narcotics. Nina offered him a sprig and said, "It's calming." His response, "Mayam, me. Is this a controlled substance?" I had to bite my tongue to keep from laughing. You know the neighborhood's broken when your wife gets profiled by law enforcement for gardening. Somewhere out there, me, a pot dealer was probably handing out illegal begonias and getting less heat than we were. That night I stepped outside and just stood there. No grill, no hose. Just me under a blinking street light, staring at a camera that never blinked back. I wasn't scared. I was furious. Furious that my daughter couldn't play chalk games on the sidewalk without being monitored. Furious that Nina had to justify lavender like it was a criminal enterprise. Me. Furious that someone who couldn't spell due process was documenting our every move like she was building a Netflix docuseries Suburban Hostile. Me. The Morrison Menace. If someone's watching your flowers more than the bees do, they're not protecting anything. They're proving they've lost touch with reality. She was watching us 24/7, me. Too bad she missed what we were building in plain sight. You know you've officially crossed over into lunatic territory when you block a judge from visiting his grandkid. My dad, Martin Brewster, war vet, me, retired judge and master of slow-cooked ribs, pulled up like he always did, coffee in hand, ready for Sunday breakfast. Only this time, he was stopped by a guy in a windbreaker who looked like he got lost on the way to mall security training. Clipboard in one hand, earpiece in the other, he barked, "Me. No visitors allowed without board clearance." Dad looked at him like he'd just tried to define the Constitution using a coupon catalog. "I'm here to see my granddaughter," Dad said, slowly pulling off his sunglasses like he was prepping for a courtroom cross-examination. The guy didn't blink. "Sorry, sir, the HO president has issued a temporary visitor moratorium." Moratorium, me. That's a word you only hear in courtrooms and disaster zones. Apparently, our lawn now qualified as both. I opened the door, saw my dad standing there, blocked like a package at a post office, me, and felt something deep in my chest tighten. That something rhymed with lawsuit. Charlene, of course, was peeking from behind her blinds like the wicked witch of zip code 37804. Moments later, me, she strutted across the street in full regalia, heels, clipboard, power walk that screamed, drama club dictator. "There are procedures," she barked, me. "We need clearance before allowing external foot traffic. This is about community integrity. We don't just let strangers wander in. Lady, he's not a stray dog, he's a former federal judge, me. And guess what? Now he's also extremely interested in how your HOA is rewriting the Bill of Rights." Later that evening I called Charlene, trying to de-escalate. I figured maybe, just maybe, she'd been hitting the antihistamines too hard and was having a temporary logic lapse. But when I asked if we could clarify the visitor policy, she didn't miss a beat. If you keep testing me, I'll bring in the real law. Oh, the irony. Saying that to a man who grew up at the dinner table hearing about habeas corpus like it was mashed potatoes. So I did what any rational adult with a smartphone and a sense of humor would do. I hit record. And just like that, I had audio of her threatening to escalate with law enforcement while actively denying access to an actual officer of the court. Charlene wanted power. But power without knowledge is just noise. And she was about to get legally silenced by someone who didn't need a clipboard to prove a point. Bullies puff up their chest until they meet someone with a bigger book and a better bookmark. Real authority doesn't need a walkie-talkie, it needs wisdom. She wanted a judge. She's about to get one, with a robe, a gavel, and a grudge. Charlene built herself a courtroom in the rec center. All she forgot was the law, folding chairs, a plastic podium, and a dollar store gavel. It looked like a middle school play titled Law and Disorder, the HOA Chronicles. A banner reading Community Standards Tribunal hung above a projector screen like we were at a timeshare seminar for tyrants. She had slides, actual PowerPoint slides. First one said, Case File, the Brewster Disruption. Second one had a grainy photo of my grill. Third one featured our lavender with a giant red X over it like it was a biohazard. We walked in, and Charlene was already mid-rant. These are the actions, she declared, of a family that has repeatedly disrespected our covenant. They refuse to conform. They encourage disorder. They undermine community harmony. It was like watching a traffic cone attempt a TED talk. The audience, about 30 tired neighbors, looked like they'd been bribed with free muffins and now deeply regretted it. A few tried not to make eye contact with me. One guy actually whispered, sorry man. She said attendance was mandatory. Then she queued up slide 24. Exhibit D, excessive grill use. There was a time-stamped photo of my dad flipping burgers in what looked like infrared. Either Charlene had access to military surveillance equipment or she photoshopped that from her bathroom window, just as she dramatically raised her pointer stick and declared, and now, we will vote on sanctions. The double doors swung open with a creak that could have won an Oscar. Enter Dad, Judge Martin Brewster, in his judicial robes, carrying his official leather briefcase like it held the 10 Commandments and a cease and desist. The silence in that room hit harder than a slap from the IRS. Charlene stammered, who are you? And Dad, in his calmest courtroom voice, said, I heard there was a trial being held. Funny thing, I brought the law with me. He opened his briefcase and laid down a stack of documents that looked like they'd been assembled by someone with both free time and federal clearance. Charlene tried to recover. This is a private HOA matter. Dad didn't flinch. It's now a matter of legal oversight. The neighbors shifted in their seats like kids caught passing notes. One man in the back let out a low oh-ho snap and sipped his decaf like it was hot tea. Charlene, still in her fake judge cosplay, held up her gavel and squeaked. I'm presiding here. Dad gave her a look so flat it could smooth wallpaper. Then we have a problem, he said. Because I'm the only presiding officer here legally certified to do anything with that gavel. You can dress up like a queen, but if the castle's fake and the villagers ain't loyal, your crown's just plastic. Charlene wanted to prove we broke the rules. Dad came to prove she made them up. Charlene's HOA rulebook looked like Frankenstein's planner, duct tape, glue, and delusion holding it together like the Constitution had been rewritten by a sleep-deprived cat. Judge Brewster took one glance at the binder and let out a small chuckle, the kind that usually precedes a courtroom takedown. Let's see what law looks like when it's stapled to wishful thinking, he said, flipping pages that crinkled with years of manufactured authority. On page 6, taped over the original text, was a new section. Section 12A, unauthorized smells and sounds. It literally banned barbecues and excessive laughter. He held the page up like a bad forgery on Antiques Roadshow. This wasn't voted on, he said. This is masking tape and a Sharpie. The room exhaled as if it had been holding in its collective suspicion for 3 years. Charlene stood there with a smile that looked more Botox than belief and muttered, I am the board, I have the right to amend. That's when Dad dropped the real bomb. Actually, under State Statute 41.2c, you can't change community bylaws without a 2/3 resident vote. He pulled out copies of meeting minutes showing 0 votes taken for the past 18 months. The mood shifted like someone had flipped on a light switch in a haunted house. Mrs. Delgado, who once paid a $200 fine for unauthorized porch font, stood up and yelled, so my chalkboard sign wasn't illegal. A guy in the back, Randy I think, held up a citation for parking his camper, too emotionally close, to a neighbor's mailbox and shouted, You made that up. Charlene's power didn't just wobble, it dived into the rec center carpet like a pigeon hitting a window. Dad flipped another page. Section 8B's me lavender restrictions. Known allergens banned within a 40-foot radius. Nina gasped. That's not real. Nope, Dad said. And neither is Section 7G, me which bans rocking chairs after 8 p.m. One by one, neighbors began pulling out their own violations, each more absurd than the last. She fined me for using string lights, one said. She banned my son's trumpet practice, said another. She cited my garden gnome for unauthorized stance. The room was boiling, and Charlene looked like a GPS recalculating under pressure. Power built on fiction lasts exactly as long as people forget how to read. Her laws were fake, her control was fiction, and her clipboard was next. The woman who once banned chalk drawings on sidewalks just got legally banned from her own ZIP code. Judge Brewster didn't waste time. He filed a 500-yard restraining order so airtight it might as well have been shrink-wrapped. Charlene Bishop, Queen of Petty Cetaceans, was now officially prohibited from approaching anyone in Cypress Ridge. That's right. If she even thought about attending her little fake court again, she'd be carted off faster than a Christmas wreath without a permit. The same woman who once fined my daughter for unauthorized sidewalk whimsy now couldn't set foot within 6 football fields of our mailboxes. Her reaction: picture a teapot trying to boil the ocean. This is an abuse of power! She shrieked, waving what appeared to be her gavel like it was a cursed wand.
This community needs me!
Dad raised one brow and replied, me. Not according to the 43 residents who just signed affidavits saying otherwise. The delivery of that paperwork was smoother than jazz on a Sunday morning. Charlene's clipboard snapped in half. Whether from stress or symbolism, nobody knows. Within 48 hours, a bright orange moving truck showed up in front of her house, ironically blocking the street like a wrecking ball of poetic justice. For 3 years, she cited neighbors for everything from crook trash bins to driveway oil spots. Now her giant truck sat there for hours, idling over the storm drain like it had a personal vendetta against HOA bylaws. And guess what? Not a single neighbor called to report her. We just watched from our porches, eating popcorn and letting irony do its thing. Let her violate her own rules, someone muttered. We'll allow it. Charlene waddled out of her house one last time in kitten heels and a polyester pantsuit that screamed, municipal cosplay. She tried to give orders to the movers, but they ignored her with the same enthusiasm people reserve for spam calls. As she climbed into her car and took the long court-mandated detour around the block, she passed our house. And for the first time ever, her window was rolled all the way up. I waved. She did not. The silence was better than fireworks. Rules built like swords will always cut their owner first when justice swings back around. The street cheered. The signs came down. The grill came back out. We threw a block party so good the bylaws begged for mercy. Grills fired up like engines of freedom. Dogs ran leash free like they'd just been pardoned. And kids drew chalk masterpieces without fear of fines from the fun police. With Charlene gone and her rulebook buried in the compost heap of suburban dictatorship, our neighborhood felt like a sitcom reboot. Same cast, better writers. The HOA held its first real vote in years, and to nobody's surprise, I was elected president with 43 out of 45 votes. The other 2 abstained because they were still traumatized by her no popsicles after 6 p.m. policy. My first act, I rewrote the rules in plain English and common sense. Rule 1, be kind. Rule 2, respect each other. Rule 3, don't be Charlene. I printed them on recycled paper and handed them out with fresh lemonade. The neighbors, they bloomed like our flower beds. Nina expanded her backyard shop into the community's go-to spot for herbs and actual peace. Even Randy, the guy with the emotionally aggressive camper, installed solar lights that blinked in Morse code. Effery at last. One evening I was trimming our now completely legal lavender when Dad walked up, grinning like he'd just sentenced karma to 25 to life. Wes, who just tried running for HOA president in Brookstone Valley, he said. She even handed out campaign flyers with her old gavel on them. Turns out Charlene thought a new zip code would forget her greatest hits, What she didn't know was that Judge Brewster had already sent her complete HOA rap sheet ahead, complete with fabricated bylaws, unauthorized surveillance, and a clip of her yelling, I am the Constitution. Brookstone rejected her faster than a phishing email. The day her house officially sold, we held a second party, this time, just for healing. Kids played, neighbors shared stories, and Frank from down the block planted a new rose bush for his late wife, right where Charlene once demanded it be removed. Sophie handed out little bundles of lavender as gifts and announced, this smells like freedom. And you know what? She was right. The scent of community returning is stronger than any fine ever printed on yellow paper. See, this wasn't just about standing up to Charlene. It was about standing up for each other. For our homes, our peace, our right to barbecue on a Sunday without triggering an investigation. It was about exposing how small tyrants grow powerful. Not because they're strong, but because others are too tired or too scared to push back. And sometimes, all it takes is one family that says, "Not today." We turned a HOA horror story into a handbook for community courage. We didn't just fight a bully, we rewrote the rules, literally, with lavender laughter and legal receipts. The loudest person with a clipboard isn't always right. The best kind of power doesn't come from rules, it comes from reason. And no matter how many bylaws they weaponize, kindness, clarity, me and community always win in the end. If you've ever dealt with a Charlene of your own, drop your story in the comments. Let's make petty power trips go viral, for all the wrong reasons. Like this story. Smash that like button. Subscribe so you don't miss our next tale of poetic justice, lawn wars, and HOA comedy gold. Because here at this channel, we don't just tell stories. We take back the narrative one clipboard at a time. Got your own HOA horror story? Drop it in the comments. Let's laugh at the madness together. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button, because tomorrow we have another incredible story.